Welcome to this drafting guide for a 1940s overcoat. I already did a live drafting analysis of this on Instagram, but I got deleted, so I'm making another one for you. This is a really nice overcoat. You can either make it as is, you can make it as a dress, or you can just pick and choose the details you want. I would either use my torso block, so combined bodice and skirt block, your basic bodice if you're making a dress, or if you're making it a coat, you can use your coat block if you have one, or your basic block with a bit of ease. This probably won't work as a really cold winter coat, but it'd be lovely trench coat, so in a cotton or maybe in a wool cotton mix as well. Let's draw it out. So I'm actually going to start with the middle of a coat. So you've got a very fitted waist, which then goes into very flat skirt at the bottom, and then at the top it turns into this really oversized collar. So I'm actually going to draw the bodice first, and then I'm going to draw the collar on top. So the silhouette is quite classic, tight at the top and flat bottom, and it's got sort of quite medium, hasn't got super tight sleeve, and the sleeves just have like a little, probably a two-piece sleeve, and they have probably a little kick. So I think it's actually two-piece because you can see there's a little kick there, a little opening. So we've got a shawl collar here, and what's quite interesting about this shawl collar, so it's sort of, it starts turning just around the bust point area, but it's got a dart, and that which is just to allow you to fit it better. Or have more choice in fitting, as well as being a really nice detail. But because this is a really oversized shawl collar, by extending, rather just growing out of the high shoulder point, you can add more angles. You got more choice of how you fit it, and then you have a dart going into the front, so you can either actually incorporate the dart in your drafting, or you pinch out the dart when you're trailing. So there's two ways of approaching this, and if it sounds like a sort of tutorial, you might want to do it at some point. Do let me know. So I've drawn it slightly the long way around just so you can see proportion. So it's quite a big collar. It probably folds over slightly more, but that's a sort of one of the main focal points, and it's a typical shawl collar with a center back seam. And then that's what's really nice. If you go into a very flat skirt, and I'm not 100% sure how flat it is. I think there's actually quite a lot of volume. So you can see at the back there's a deep pleat and volume, and at the front we can see quite a lot of volume there. And what's really nice about it is we've got our center front seam, and then we just got 3 buttons, a bit bigger, and there's actually 2 buttons above the natural waist and 1 button below the natural waist, and I've drawn them slightly off center, I apologize. And then can you see there's a little dart, what looks like a little dart there, so like a little sort of Dior-ish dart. Well, actually it could be a Dior dart, or it could be that they have a smaller dart, because when you also have just underneath your bust point, you've got this really nice seam. So you can actually then ease in part of your bust dart into that seam, because it'll be really close to your bust point. So you got sort of 2 options. You can either do it like a sort of Dior style dart, or you can convert some of your shaping into ease into that line, and that will of course only work in a wool, but that's one option, because a wool you can really steam together, and then you can actually mold it into your shape already, because it only be like probably this much, so you can mold it in. But with a cotton you won't be able to do it. So as a cotton, this will be your full bust dart, and then this will be just a style line, which basically also chops up our coat. So you got a top piece which is probably nearly a square, and then we've got a really long bottom piece. and this curved line will sit just underneath the natural waist, and the reason for that is that we turn all of our darts into that one panel. So both the waist darts on the top and the bottom are turned to this panel, so which means the bottom lining has to stay really close to your natural waist, otherwise you won't be able to eradicate them. So it's probably something like maybe a centimeter or two below, and then at the top it's like this, because if you go too low you have this diamond shaped dart you can't get rid of because it's wide in the middle, so that's impossible. So that will tell you a bit about where everything has to sit. So this is probably very close to the natural waist, and it just looks slightly curved. And what's really nice about that, from that seam, we then also have the pocket. I'm drawing it really badly. What I find quite fascinating with the way they've drawn it is that this is one panel, and then we've got our side panel, which is one probably extends as a facing into our pocket, because we got pockets here. Probably more like that. So we have something like, so we've got our top panel, then we've got a middle panel which actually extends all the way down here, so it is one really long panel. And then from the side we got these two panels, which sort of then they can either form the whole pocket bag or they can just form the facing, but they sort of go in. So what you would actually do is, first of all, with this style, is you create the amount of volume you want, so how flared you want it. And I actually, when I first looked at it, I think it had less volume, and I think it really has, because I think you can be too mean. So we got a center back seam, so you probably want the center back on the straight of grain. So I wonder whether maybe the whole back could even be, it's definitely a quarter circle. So the whole back could be 1/4 circle or could be a half circle. And then I think the back piece extends to this seam. So I think the whole, if I draw the back quickly, the back is much easier. The back has a really nice V-neck waistline, so it's your normal waistline, it's just redrawn in the middle. So again, it has to sort of stay pretty close to that line. So you have to sort of do some, not fudging, but you have to, when you close it all up, it's to go, have the point there should be here, because then you can just close it quite easily. If you go below or above too much, it gets trickier. So the back is just got our darts, and then it's got, you can see how that looks like a really full skirt. So I think it's actually more than I first said, because then we've got our back seam, and then I think it's like a pleat. So I don't think that pleat is too wide. That might be sort of an inch either side, so 10 centimeters overall box pleats. So I sort of wonder the whole, maybe from back, center back to here, might be a quarter circle. And then this at the front, you can see there is some volume, so that might be just sort of slightly A-line. So what you would draft is your whole skirt to roughly those dimensions, and then once you have that, so once you moved up, that probably each side panel is a quarter circle, but it extends past the side seam to the front. Once you've created the skirt shape you want, that's when you would actually draw in your seams here, you draw in your pleat at the back, and you create your pockets. So you actually check the silhouette, the flare of the skirt first before you add these pocket details, because they, once you put them in, it'd be quite tricky to change the fit of it. So get the fit right first, and then you just lay it on top of it and create this. And if you'd like a tutorial for this, we can do it as well. So actually I will put a poll out there where you will want a tutorial for the collar, or a tutorial for the bodice, or a tutorial for the skirt, or all three, and we can make a series if you're interested. But that's the sort of overall silhouette. So you start with probably making it just a half twirl of your bodice part. Then you can probably you can do a half twirl of your skirt, but that's always hard to see a volume, so you could do a slightly shorter one depending on how sure you want to be it fits you. A full twirl would probably be best for that skirt, just so you can see how the volume drapes. And once you've done that, then you can just draw in your pockets, and you can add your collar, and you could then just make a twirl of just the top section, so you know the collar looks nice. So you don't always need to twirl the whole garment, just the bits you want. And then construction, this is probably a fully lined skirt. You could make it unlined as well, the whole coat. If you make it unlined, I would bind everything, and if you make it unlined, I would face the whole top section. So that red section is completely faced and double. I mean, it probably has like a sort of back facing. But if you line it, you would again, I would actually face the whole front section here, because it's quite it look quite nice, and you can hide all the things. And again, this section here could either be lined or faced, or you could just have create a separate facing which goes like that. It's up to you. You can either basically mirror some of the facing and lining to reflect the outside style lines, or you can go the other way and just have a completely separate facing, which of course eradicates some of the seams on the inside, which might be a nice solution in a thicker fabric. So for dress, what you could actually do as well is that you just use the middle section as a sort of, not corset, but you reinforce it with facing, and the rest you do single, apart from the collar, but for a coat that look very nicely lined for a bit more body. But this is the little drafting guide for 1940s coat, and I will put up a poll as well for future drafting tutorials, and I hope you found this helpful.